you know, it's on the record from here on. I want to say thanks for all of you that are taking the time and all the cyber steps that are necessary to register and get here. You know, when we plan these things, we beat around the what's the purpose? And you know, the purpose can be as simple as just chatting, just like if we were at a physical reunion and we found ourselves in a room with classmates, we would just start chatting, chewing the fat. It can be that simple. I think the last Zoom had a bit of a theme. We were throwing out ideas, requesting ideas, and throwing out some ideas on how to some of the arrangements that need to be made now in terms of living and how to make the best of the remaining years before us. I think that conversation went pretty well. I've avoided throwing out a theme. I've got one I could throw out, but I think we ought to start off just talking amongst ourselves and bringing us up to date on what you're doing and where you're doing it, or how you're doing it, and what you're thinking about, and what makes you laugh. I hope you still laugh, all of you. Anyway, okay. With that, I've said my opening lines. I don't know. Is Ron on board here? I don't see him yet. I see we do have a few people who have not joined us before. Anyway, raise your hand if it's your first class Zoom. I think that gets Dave Pereski there. And Ed and Jim Canup. You need to raise a hand, Jim, I think too. So
I did raise a hand.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Hey.
Anyways, it's nice to have first timers, and as far as I'm concerned, the more the better. We can always divide up into smaller groups if we choose to. Once we lose Heather, I don't have the ability to divide into chat rooms, as they're called, but have at it. What's up, guys?
Can you see me, Dick? Paul?
Yes.
Yes, I can. I can, Paul.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
You're a first timer too. That's
yes, right. I am. I did raise my hand.
Okay. Well, I wasn't able to scan the whole spectrum because I'm looking at. Are you all set up so that you can see what is it 4 by 5? At least 19 faces up there facing me.
Right.
I'm seeing only 6. Well, maybe if I
there might be a way to expand your screen. The upper right corner, maybe, Paul.
Yeah, I can pull them up. Okay. Thank you.
Well, don't all be quiet at once.
I don't know, but I've been at all of these meetings and I thoroughly enjoyed them. Chuck Smith. What's going on is I think that at age, I'm 86, is that a third of my friends have gone to continual care facilities like I'm in. A third of them have gone closer to family, and a third of them are just marking time wherever they are. I think the big difference this year has been when people get sick, they die. It's not like they go to get an alternate course of action. And been surprised by people who have died that I thought would be the last people standing.
On what basis, Chuck?
What?
That they would be the last people standing.
Well, very, a lady who shot her age a couple of times, ran for election, didn't get elected, ran again, got elected. Very principled person who you could trust, and she seemed to be vibrant. And she grew up near me. I guess maybe that's a reason why. In Western Massachusetts, but I was just surprised. Another guy who's 2 days older than me is president of Kiwanis here, very outgoing guy, a good golfer, great fun to be with, bocce captain in our bocce league, and about 5 weeks before, very healthy guy, but then suddenly he's not healthy, and heart disease, blood disease he'd had that had been, dormant for a while, suddenly wasn't dormant anymore, and there wasn't anything they could do for him. And 5 weeks later, he's dead. So those are the
Some
somebody.
of us are steeped in gratitude. I went into the hospital with bilateral pneumonia and type 1 diabetes.
Somebody, Ken Gillette, can you mute your phone? I think that's your squawk coming in. Okay. Well, I think, Chuck, that's the world we live in. That's one, we can't fool ourselves. We're all living at the same age, and we all know that we're going to lose friends and mates, and that's a fact of life. I'd much rather see us focus on what we're doing to make the best out of the years we've got.
I love this group because many of you are guys I didn't know at school. I wish I had taken better advantage of the studies that were made available to develop skills I had to develop in the business world. And eventually a few of them stopped my progress. But I wish somebody had taken me aside in freshman year, was in business and successful, maybe 20 years into business, and told me the importance of communication skills, oral and written, the importance of leadership skills. I always was a joiner and screwing around, and I thought it was all about personal skills, and it sure is. I just was stupid. So, at any rate, I'm a late bloomer. I try to make up for lost causes, and I come back to join you guys because you're the same age. A lot of you have done a lot of great stuff, and I'm just interested in people. So I come and I come to fun. I've enjoyed it.
Chuck, we're very happy to have your bloom among this beautiful bouquet of folks.
I can't get my picture.
I didn't even know half of the words Ron just said. That's the
I don't
problem.
know where and how to make mine come up.
A beautiful bouquet peddling our ideas.
So I just got off the phone, a Zoom just ahead of this from our president,
See me up
Maud,
there?
and
But they can. Why do you want to see you?
When I
makes me
talk,
wonder-
I don't show.
how many of us on the screen would go to Williams again if we were back then applying to college?
I wouldn't get in.
Oh, sure.
I wouldn't make it.
Yeah, if I could,
I'd go.
I'd be there.
I'd go, but I don't think I'd get in.
Yeah.
Well,
There's always that problem, of course. But Maud held forth for an hour. I stayed with most of it, listened to her, and she updated us on what's going on. Of course, some of us noted that some schools made statements relating to the Israeli-Hamas mess. Williams didn't. And she explained that. She had some things to say that were interesting to hear, but I can't possibly paraphrase them all. I can answer questions maybe.
Well, she said that she didn't want to get involved in each one of those, and she was more about, teaching, exposing people to explore their learning opportunities, and that was what I took from her statement. Seemed all right to me.
Well, I think it does too. What she said was that she will speak out, issue a school statement on national or international things that affect our campus, that affect the way we run our school. And she used as an example the Supreme Court decision in June on race considerations in admissions. And she said, our situation is we will follow the law of the land, period. And then she said, but of course, diversity remains a core value for Williams. That was her response there.
I'll say one more thing and then I'll shut up. I helped Paul Galvani solicit. I've given something to Williams every year since I've graduated, whether it was $5 or whatever. And you know, some people are upset with this or that, but as you just said, Dick, diversity is very important. And if this world is going to learn how to live together, the class at Williams, you know, each freshman class has got a high diversity level, and we ought to give money just to support the opportunity for different diversity groups to get together and try to learn to work together and make something out of the world. I mean, that's good reason why I give, why I support it, or whatever.
I appreciate that, Chuck. A lot of people do have that attitude. There are some of our classmates who are unhappy with what's happening at our schools and universities these days, to the point where they have stopped giving, which is unfortunate. My view on it is that at a minimum, we owe such a huge debt of gratitude to the college for everything that it did for us, whether we took advantage of it all or not, Chuck. That alone is a reason to give. So that's my view. Nobody's happy with everything that's happening, but we can still support the college.
Well, Paul, I will tell you that your letters are absolutely phenomenal. I've never read more compelling words about being grateful to your alma mater. And I had a funny thing happen a couple of years ago. I think it was probably the first appeal you wrote for funding and for giving. In there, you explained how we were taught how to think, not just learn facts. And I have a good friend who lives in this community I live in now, and he's class of 54. That's some mileage. Anyway, I gave him that that piece that you wrote because I thought it was so compelling about the liberal arts education. And he used it with his class letter to his classmates. He's a class agent, or maybe I don't have that term right. He's the head of his class. Anyway, I want to compliment you on your wonderful way to draw people into your words.
Well, thank you, Jim. I appreciate that. Yeah, he called me and asked if he could use it, and I said, sure, but maybe Dick, I should get credit for that, for what he raised too.
Why not?
I don't, just a joke. Just a joke.
The other thing that I think is so good about our development efforts at the college too is at least if you've been giving for a while, you're also credited for the appreciation. In other words, if you gave a gift several years ago and the markets have been good and so forth, when at least, I don't know if they still do it, but at least periodic, or maybe it's once a year, they send out sort of at least what you've done over a period of time, and also what the aggregate benefit that has been to the college. In other words, that they will subtract essentially, let's say that 5% or whatever it is for usage each year, but also to see your lifetime giving. And I don't know whether it's still being done in the whatever development is called these days. But it was terrific to see at least that had you given, you know, for us old guys who have given many years ago and been the benefit of the investment performance over the years, at least the total number at the bottom of the page indicated that the appreciation also was shown. So you knew that when you had given, looked like a bigger number than you thought you ever gave. And I thought that was one very positive, but it's also realistic. I think most companies or most non-profits should be doing stuff like that. It's very well done.
Yeah, I think the college still does that.
Mm-hmm. Good. Try to get others to do that, but I think it's the right way to show it.
Yeah. Yeah, there are a lot of people who haven't missed a year, so that's now almost 65. It's a great record.
I would love to hear more about what we're discovering at this age that may well have been nurtured by our time together and our time at Williams.
Mhm.
A couple of months ago, I had a stroke, and it was a mild stroke, and I was very fortunate. And a good friend of mine said, "Well, Ron, what have you learned?" And it struck me that that was a very appropriate question. It wasn't quite what I expected when I said I had a stroke. So I've tried to give some thought to that. And I think one of the things that I've learned is the importance of one's attitude toward whatever circumstances are presented. Because we can control the attitude a bit. And it occurred to me at the same time that that may be one of the great gifts of being with you guys. What was it, 107 years ago? Well, I forget when it was we were all together. But and the Williams atmosphere, and there were a lot of things in those 4 years that didn't go quite right for me. But somehow that community enabled, emboldened, modeled, I'm not sure what the right verb is, that one simply needs to get control of the attitude that you present those circumstances with and get on with it.
Yeah.
Does that strike a bell with any of you?
That's the only thing you can control, basically, is the attitude, because what's happening is happening, right? The stroke is there. And what you do with it is what you do with it, how you respond, how you feel. I think I think that's true.
I think it's true in a variety of even not as dramatic as health issues, which obviously will, at our stage, will happen, but also just changes in life and changes in terms of what you've done for many years and how you can adjust to those changes that are going to be. You don't get up in the morning and go to work, but and you see some people who are and you get advice from people occasionally who will say, for those of you that are sitting in the couch or something, and there's a kind of an indentation in the couch, this is what I was told anyway, so you're looking at the place you'll probably die at. Because if you don't get if you're just sitting around and not doing anything with the rest of your life, it's tougher. But it's also tough not to have the same sort of, we're all adjusting to one thing or another. But it's, I think, Ron, your point is very well taken, as always. And by the way, I just want to congratulate you in terms of your writings and the stuff that you do for our class. It's just great stuff.
Yeah, the notes have a coherence where they didn't used to have them, and it's really nice. Wonderful.
What am I catching up with some of the first timers? Lee, my buddy.
Hey,
Vincent, or tell us about your life and what your thoughts are, and stuff like
well, something I was just thinking of when we were talking about our growing up after Williams. I think it was perfect having like 280, I guess, was roughly our class, and you really had the opportunity to, in a small college like Williams, to get to know a greater percentage, a great percentage, if you so choose, as opposed to a big university. And for me, that's been special all my life because I came from a public high school in New Jersey where I don't think anybody nobody had gone to Williams. Fortunately, subsequently, a few have. Um, and a few of you came from schools with a few friends, which was probably very helpful at the beginning. But for me, just getting to know 279 people from other places, was very, very special. Maybe I had a very sheltered life in a small town in New Jersey up till then, but it's been extraordinarily good all along. And I wish I could get back and see everybody all the time because I had a lot of great friends that even though I don't speak to them or hear from them, I still consider them really great friends. One other thing came up that I thought was very interesting, either at the last one or the one before that. A lot of people were talking about where they wanted to wind up geographically because they were their greatest concern was their health issues. And, so many people, I have been in New York since Williams. I went to graduate school at Columbia, okay, and stayed here in New York City. So I never realized till a few years ago when my health issues began how lucky I was to be here, in this great medical center where I've had a lot of great help. I guess there are a few more like Cleveland and Houston, but if anybody's still thinking about that, where they wanted to wind up, and health was a major issue, New York City's got unbelievable doctors and hospitals, and that's been, very, very fortunate for me. Something I never planned for, but I'm so glad that I've been here.
Well, I can echo that same thing from Cleveland, where we've got university hospitals that I go to, and the Cleveland Clinic, and they're in very healthy competition and incredible care.
Right. I mean, you find I know we have some medical people in our class still. I guess nobody here today, but it's remarkable what people can do for you if they're well trained. So I get anybody moving to New York out of that?
Couldn't afford it.
In our last Zoom, I think Bob and Matt Nimitz, Bob Lip and Matt Nimitz made a full pitch for New York lately. So
yeah. It's a good spot. Lots of stuff to do here. It's we won't talk about the rentals or the price of getting a place in the right place.
Well, once again, I would support them. Anybody wants to come to Cleveland, it's affordable.
Well, didn't we have a graduate of Williams as head of the Cleveland Clinic?
Yeah.
Toby Cosgrove.
Toby Cosgrove, of course. He's amazing.
He lives in the same small village of Bracknell that I'm in. And according to the quarterly magazine that comes out, he's going to host the Bracknell Community Foundation at what they refer to as his mansion on the lake.
Wow.
So mark your calendars for February and see if you can get a pass to get in.
He's an amazing guy. He's done a great job with the Cleveland Clinic, hasn't he? I mean, and I know he's retired from that job, but my God, I remember how close he was to Obama and probably other governmental officials and what he created out there. And I remember visiting him one time, not for health reasons, but just in Cleveland. And what an exceptional organization and health operation he developed out there during his years. Somebody's phone is ringing. I don't think it's me.
Who's still got a landline?
Yeah, I wonder why I do even.
Best thing I have, because I give that number out to all the people I talk to, and I never answer the phone, ever. And, if there's a message, then I can listen to the message. But my cell phone, I just use for friends and doctors and, things that are important. And the landline is a VoIP phone, so it doesn't cost anything. And people say, geez, I call you, you're never home. Well, pretty busy, but it rings all the time. It's good.
Jerry, as one of our class that has very little hair left, I think you're advertising yours. You've got the camera focused on your gray.
Well, I can't get that damn thing. It's a new camera. The
Get
first
a booster chair, Jerry.
Just sit up straight. You'll be fine.
Well, I can't.
There you are. There you are.
The first thing we had of these meetings, my camera, the
That's
sound
better.
or something. So I bought a new camera, but it doesn't adjust. So I've got to figure out a way to get it lower or get me higher, maybe. Anyway.
I'm sorry.
So from an accident, so I can't bend back. You don't ever want to be on a freeway when I'm on the freeway because I can't move my head very well.
I got a question for the group just to throw it out. Who, especially given these times, which are, maybe I got two questions, or difficult, obviously, I think in so many respects. What do you think? Sometimes you feel like, which can be a little depressing, but that, watching the news is so tough and things get worse, whether it's environmental, whether it's wars, whether it's brutality, whether it's one thing or another. Does that mean is the attitude should be, we talk about managing things, whether it's health or something else. I always felt like, if things get worse and worse, at least because of our experience over the years, they'll hit bottom and then get better. Is that just a fool's theory, or I'll leave that with a question mark? And secondly, given the times that we live in, who were the professors or thoughts of your education at Williams College which mean the most to you, given thinking about what's going on in the world today or relevance to them? And for I would talk about Fred Schumann and Bob Gaudino. And I think about those. I was a political science major, obviously. I think about them a lot. I mean, those burning eyes. I don't know how many had Bob Gaudino, but, under his health issues and everything else. But it's just amazing in terms of, I'll never forget his enthusiasm, his building the Williams in India or Williams at this and that, and those burning eyes that were always questioning. And, Fred Schumann, Red Fred, as they called him in those days. And I think about people like that. What have you all got to add to that, those couple of questions or thoughts?
I think you have to tell the truth. We've gotten away from that.
Hard to find it.
I don't know. We used to have it.
Well, we used to have, I used to teach classes in the 60s and 70s and 80s, and we basically were debating about what was going on and what was true. But I have a feeling now, with AI complicating the issue, an awful lot of information is out there that has no relevance to at all to truth, and it's there and it's very convincing. We look at when in the elections who people vote for. It's just it's astounding. I would love to be teaching now, but I've had my turn and I'm writing instead. But you know, I think it'd be really a challenge because it's hard to know what's really true. You have to really take your time and be willing to dig. But if you got the internet, you can just go in and say, "Oh, look what I see," and you buy it, you're done. So it's really a difficult issue.
Yeah.
We've always had propaganda. We just have it by the shovelful now instead of the spoonful, I guess.
Yeah, it's intense. Yep. It's everywhere.
Like you, Bob, I was blessed to have Professor Schumann and Gaudino. One of my questions is that wonderful program that was put together after Gaudino's untimely death still in existence to provide experiential education for students?
It really does. As I've had grandchildren just out of Williams, or a couple anyway. Got one still a senior there. It's just to give you an example, the answer is yes. He really started all that. And my God, he used to tell us, by the way, if you think the students are a pain in the ass sometime, he used to tell us to have a food fight. And it wasn't Peresky at that time, but it was whatever, Baxter, I guess. Throw some food around, get off your butts and do something. For God's sakes, that still exists, obviously, maybe to extremes. But the other thing is, for example, my grandchild, who is now a senior at Williams, really a wonderful young man from my son, who a grandchild is from Los Angeles, but is really amazing. He spent, the junior year, the second half of the junior year in a sort of a group in Australia, but then he himself went for 8 weeks to Tasmania, and he was interviewing farmers there, commercial farmers, and teaching them about the concept of agroforestry. And my God, he wrote, I didn't even know what the hell he was talking about, but he wrote and he was interviewing them, and he was sleeping in like a hammock outside somebody's house for the whole time. And he went around and interviewed each of these farmers and talked to them about, essentially the concept, and this is in Tasmania, the concept of basically building forests around their agricultural areas, the commercial farmers, so that two things would happen. You'd have a better environment for the soil. And secondly, you would also, after 20 years, when these trees grew up and you weren't making as much money in the agricultural business, you could go into the lumber business. Now, he wrote a 50-page paper himself, and he did this all on his own. And about 15 pages were references. And I saw a beginning with Bob Gaudino to do something like that, rather than just going to Paris. And I won't mention my other grandchild, but who wasn't at Williams, by the way. And, you go for Paris for a semester and you travel most of the time and you never go to class. But there are those Gaudino moments that come up, and you see that in at least that example.
Well, don't knock Paris. I went to Paris for a year after we graduated and studied political science and sciences politique. One of my professors was Jacques Chirac, who went on to become the president of the Republic. And I was there when Kennedy was elected and came to visit de Gaulle, and they drove down the Champs-Élysées together.
Amazing.
And it was also while the Algerian War was underway, and the students were protesting, and
Yeah.
they were active in a way that we never were at Williams. I mean, we led a pretty placid existence.
It's true.
So it opened up a lot of vistas for me when I was in Paris, and I still study French
That's great.
60 plus years later.
Yeah, that's great.
Bob, you started your question with a reference to possibly finding current situation depressing.
Right.
And my mind ran to several things. One, my mother used to say, and I would be very cross with her, I just don't belong in the world anymore.
Whoa.
And there are days when I feel that. I understand much better what she was saying, and I've decided that the world as I knew it, a world that I knew, doesn't exist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
The world does exist. The world is not ending. A world that I have known is ending. But I think of people who offered me clues when I was at Williams. John Chandler was one of them. Larry DeBoer was another. And Larry DeBoer was chaplain for a couple of years while we were there. But Larry DeBoer used to talk plaintively, almost in tears, about the fact that he had been taught as a child to make everything a head trip and to never get in touch with his feelings or his heart. And he urged us to try to escape from analyzing and doing everything in your head in response to what is in front of you. And that has been such an important message for me, because I was a C student. I wasn't analyzing carefully everything. But Larry's message to me was, that's all right. The head is not the whole man. There needs to be some heart and some passion and some other kinds of things in the mix.
Yeah.
So I think that one of the ways around that is to take some pleasure, as I've just heard you doing, several of you, in what's right in front of you, rather than to take the whole world and for me, its current tendency toward inducing depression, and simply look at what's right in front of me. Here in Deer Isle, a lot of beautiful nature and a lot of wonderful people, and even some good doctors, actually. I can testify to that. And be present in what's right in front of us. And it's a pleasure out of that.
That's why I like living here in San Miguel, because it's a city that smiles. There isn't the anger that I feel when I go back and visit, and it's like what's in front of me. I have these people that I know when I walk down Canal Street to home. I know these store owners. We don't have language, but we have friendship. And there's a coffee shop. I know all the workers, and it's just an absolute joy. And I have a doctor who she and I work together on Wednesdays feeding 80 people from the Campo. She runs it. Her parents started the program 25 years ago. She runs it. She comes in. She's 40 years old. She's about 2 feet tall, actually 5. And she's just a pepper pot. She's my doctor. We talk medicine when she comes in about my blood pressure issue or whatever's going on. She remembers it, stands up, gives the people a speech before lunch about medical issues that they can deal with as old people, like exercise, Heimlich maneuver, varicose veins, poops in the toilet, and what do you do about that? And we just have this group of people and these 80 people, and I come out of there almost crying because it's so joyous. It's like I'm living in a bubble here in a way. I'm aware of what's going on and all the shit that's happening, but I find the present, what's in front of me, and plus I'm trying to write books. I'm working on my 8th one. It's in front of me, and I'm just really enjoying it. It's like God, and I'm 85 years old, and I'm not, crumbling and fumbling. I'm trying. I still fumble, but it's joyous here. And when I had an allergic reaction, the emergency room came to my living room to take care of me. And for 2 days, I got great care, prednisone shots and Benadryl and nebulizer and monitor and all that stuff. And an ambulance waiting outside in case I had to go to the hospital. 2 days, $600. And it was perfect care. Guy knew English, and it's like, wow. So I'm what's in front of me is just amazing. And now I look at all you guys in front of me, and that adds to the joy.
I was so pleased to see Jim Hartley
Yes.
in the group today, because Jim wrote in the notes some time ago about discovering that his grandson was trans, and his attitude toward that situation was not to say a world he had known existed no longer. It was to learn all he could about transitioning and what it meant. And it was a wonderfully rich thing. And I'm just wondering if Jim can trace his ability to tackle a new subject and to learn as a tool that he may have learned something about at Williams that carried him through what was a really challenging time. Jim, am I putting you on the spot?
No, the only thing putting me on the spot is one of the maintenance men from our retirement community is working in the next room right now and pounding and making noise. And that's kind of, I don't want to yet come in. You're talking about what we got from professors and such. And I honestly don't go back to any one name, any one person, but the experience of the 4 years really taught me to question and think. And so that's related to a lot of what I'm hearing today, and certainly the issue of accepting transgender. I begin to ask questions, and you just get answers, or not necessarily answers, but was open to learning, and that was helpful. Again, I credit Williams' background for that, even though I can't name a particular person or teacher who made the impact. It was the overall experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to admit, when I was at Williams, I was just barely out of high school in the Midwest. And after 4 years at Williams, I made a step forward, but it took several more before I really grew up. So I learned, but didn't have some of the impact some of you did, who were really more mature when you got there. As I look back, I can see that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
What's Dave Praski? I haven't seen you for a while. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Well, I'm just enjoying the fact that I'm able to look at many friends and faces from our class. And at the same time, I'm enjoying listening to everybody recount. I can just tell you that I currently look at every day as a blessing. And we're all fortunate to be in our mid-80s, and we don't know how long we're here, but I enjoy every day and how even more.
What's your life like now? Where do you live? Where I have to catch, we'd all love to catch up with you. And again, thank you for Presky Hall, obviously. What's your life like now?
With regard to Presky, I just say I heard earlier people talking about feeling a debt, and I did. As you know, I went to Williams without cost. My father had died the year before I went to Williams, and I had a mother, widowed mother, and 2 younger children. So Williams was very good to me, and I thought it was appropriate to be good to Williams. I live in Florida during the winter season. I spend summers between Cape Cod and Williamstown, and it's nice to be in both places and not to be working.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the other thing, talking about health and so forth, I heard something that I thought made a lot of sense from, again, other people, is that loneliness can be a very difficult health problem, a mental health problem, I guess. And in discussing, for example, what some of the discussion was here, Ron especially, and I've heard, I have a good friend over the years who's sort of famous now, Jamie Dimon, who runs JP Morgan Chase. And I've heard him say that, in fact, the most important thing when he's asked about, he's going to retire one of these days and been the biggest, has the biggest bank in the world and everything else. And what's he going to do? And he basically said, well, when he gets done with that, he thinks that the most important thing that you can do is to, whether it's to a janitor or to people that work for you or people you see on the street, is you have an opportunity to engage. And maybe that's just saying hello. I mean, I find myself, and Metz knows this, we walk around, we'll see each other on the street, and just saying hello to people, whether or petting their dog or saying that, or the crossing guard and just saying hello every morning when you cross the street, it enables you not to be, you're engaging with other people, which is so important. And he says, if you could just spend your life not in measuring what you've done in the past, but continuing to try to make the world a little better. And that could be just to an individual on the crossing guard or somebody like that. And it also has a lot to do with your own mental attitude. And because otherwise, if you get sort of on your own and you're not talking to even people that you've never seen, loneliness can be a tough issue. So I don't know anybody else has got thoughts about that. It's seemed to make sense to me.
Well, we moved into a retirement community 9+ years ago. The thing that surprised me most was the relationship within a community of people. It's like a village. And so every day I see people, we have staff that we relate to, and that certainly helps any sense of loneliness at all.
That's
just
great.
to be around people, you get to know them, and they're part of your lives and you're part of their lives. That's the best sense of surprise to me.
Yeah, and it's easy to do too, isn't it? I mean, you just being, I mean, I still play golf and all that kind of stuff. So best friends are all the caddies that I can know and stuff like that, and know something about their life. And I mean, it makes life much richer, I think, or at least it seems to help with some of the issues of older age, I think. I think your point is very well taken.
I live in a culture that it's almost what I call the Buenos Dias culture. You keep getting greetings from people. You're sitting at a dinner table and people walk by and they say provecho. You don't know who they are. They don't know who you are. And all of a sudden you're enveloped by these people. So I now say provecho when I walk out of the restaurant. Did it this morning at breakfast, but I did it in the States once. I said, whoops, nobody got that one. But it's just like we're all in this, we're all together here. It's like amazing. Buenos dias all the time.
Yeah.
And that loneliness is a serious issue, not only for older people, but for the young.
Yeah, it's true.
It's very
That's
sad.
one of the things they're saying. The internet and Facebook and things like that. Well, they thought originally that was going to bring a lot of people together. It's really isolating people, particularly the younger people, because they don't get together personally or even in a situation like this. And I think one of the things I've done is it stayed involved in this. I don't play golf, but I'm on a couple of nonprofit committees and all of my parish and things like that. And that keeps me out of trouble, as my wife says. And
I got another thing.
Involved with people that are
That's
here in
great.
Connecticut.
I can tell you that one of the things like Metz and I love being in New York because there's so many cultural events here and so forth. I can tell you that one of the good things about technology, and I'm just horrendous with technology. I'm lucky I can get on anything. But there are some wonderful things that I've been involved with that can bring great culture to everybody around, things. For example, the Berlin Philharmonic. I don't know if any of you are music lovers, but that's, in my way of thinking, is the greatest orchestra in the world. They have been had a digital service which is called Berlin Philharmonic online, and you can subscribe for $150 a year. You can go on, I think, for 7 days for a free thing. They have 600 concerts, and they record each one of their concerts, and it's exceptionally done for anybody that loves music. And you can bring that to Deer Isle, for God's sakes, right? And the Metropolitan Opera now has Metropolitan Opera on Demand, which is exactly the same thing. It's like the cost of one seat to go to the New York City Ballet, which I do all the time. You can get it for a whole year. And there's many other things that you can access so much. And if you have the ability even to get a grandchild to show you how to get it off your computer and onto your Apple TV or something like that, it's really exceptional stuff. And I know I would throw that out because talk about just even if you have 10 or 15 minutes, I find myself watching the Berlin Philharmonic, and I've got all these favorites that just fill up, if I have a half an hour or 45 minutes or an hour, I can get, and the accessing is so easy. It's exceptional. And you'll feel like you're part of the orchestra.
I spent last evening with the New York City Ballet in Madrid.
Wow, yes, exactly.
Fabulous.
Yeah, well, I've been on the board for 35 years now, the New York City Ballet, and I know it, and I recorded it because we didn't watch it on great performances, right, Ron?
Right, exactly.
And I've got it recorded so I can watch it tonight, but I am just torturing the board to go digital because it's not available except in something like that where it was done. And it's just part of life. But clearly, you can get to almost anything that you love by going, digital. And those programs that they did this is probably a month ago or so in Madrid. But they're available, and it's great stuff.
I'd like to make a comment on loneliness that we were talking about earlier. What my wife Lynn and I see is so many widows around us at this stage of our lives. And we have taken to coupling up with widows periodically to take them to dinner, go out to dinner with them. Many times they don't want to be taken, but they like to go out. And in the course of a dinner, you'll have a conversation about life. And in every case, they miss their husbands. They miss that quality of companionship and partnership that they benefited from and didn't realize it. For so many years, they thought it was sort of a normal thing. It's not normal. It's a wonderful thing. Anyway, we have learned to really take delight in spending some time with some of these people, and they seem to be very, very. They seem to appreciate it very, very much. You could just tell how lonely, in fact, they really are. Most of them have help, servants, drivers, different things like that. That's not the same thing.
Not at all. Yeah.
That of course is a perfect, Jim, perfect lead into the subject we've discussed before of CCRCs, or these community arrangements where you can go, and some of them are like country clubs and some of them are less like country clubs, but it's a place where these widows and widowers, they're both kinds, more widows of course, can get the companionship and share a dinner and cocktail, whatever it might be, with those of us that aren't alone yet. And we do it all the time where we live.
Well, you're making it a better world just by doing that, and better for yourself too. You're right. It's a great idea.
That's right. It's a two-way street.
Yeah.
I can't help but interject here that while I may be at a CCRC in the next couple of years, I'm not sure yet. I realize that I select a whole bunch of CCRCs. And one of the advantages that the 20 of us, or 22 in this group, have is that we are a CCRC. And you are my partners. And there are several other groups that I'm involved with who are my partners. I've lived alone now for 12 years as of last week. And so I look for partnership several times a day. And I think, and I don't take advantage of all of the CCRCs I'm part of, but I do try with this group to keep up contacts, and because we do serve as partners for each other. Yeah. Just as on the street, the crossing guard could be your partner. It's making human contact. It's the smile or the touch or the acknowledgement or just the seeing of
Absolutely.
Thank you, partners.
Thank you. Good. No, I feel the same way. I tell everybody I look forward to this so much, because how often do you get to be able to be with people your own age? Good. We're all sharing, whether you like it or not. We're all sharing the same insecurities. Like, holy Christ, you worry about this. Some days you get up in the morning and you're thinking, oh my God, this place, it's terrible, And then you get going and you have a cup of coffee and you somehow just try to, but it's great to be able to get together. It's wonderful, Dick, that you've sort of been spearheading this. I love it. I think, the ability to get together with you all, and I don't have to worry about what age anybody is, because you're all the same old goat like me. And you have the same problems. We can't figure out technology. I think the scariest word in the English language is upgrade. If you upgrade
discipline.
any technology you have, you're totally screwed for the next 3 months anyway. Because you thought you knew how to answer the phone, the damn mobile phone, and you get a new one for some reason, and stay away from upgrading. That would be my best advice.
Well, that's where the grandchildren come in.
That's yeah.
And
You
if you
gotta
don't
have
up-
them around. Oh, I know. And they gotta be available.
And if you don't upgrade, you might be more vulnerable to outside trouble. So that's
Oh,
why
no
the
question
Apple
about it.
Apple
Right.
upgrade
That's true. That's true.
keep your secret away from people. So
Yeah.
But I find if I have a little booklet, printed page with how to upgrade, I have to know how to upgrade. Use the technology. I can't look at the printed page and say, okay, do this first, do this second. Go figure out the technology before I can upgrade.
I remember in 1984 getting a Macintosh computer for the first time, and it was an absolute thrill. It changed my life, and had a big book to read about how to use it. And after the first few weeks, the book disappeared because it sort of speaks to you while you use it, and you figure it out by just touching and moving around. And it's amazing how actually compatible technology is if you allow it. And then, of course, it can screw you up. I've had that too. But it's a fascinating world we are in now. As Ron said, it's very different. And think of 2050, when 1 out of 4 people on the planet will be African. I mean, that's a whole nother paradigm almost that people will be living in. It's astounding how the change is happening. And here we are still talking to each other nicely. I love it.
Well, in view of our perceived incompetence and inferiority on the most ubiquitous technologies of our age, I'm wondering what you say to younger people when you have the opportunity about their lives and about the state of the world. What do you say when people say, well, my spouse and I are seriously debating whether to have children, or whether to get another passport against some contingency or other that might lead them to want to leave the country or so forth? It's very troubling to me to hear those things. I think the first thing that kind of pessimism or despair on the part of younger people reflects is that they're forgetting the lesson of Casablanca. Play it again, Sam. You know, it's still the same old story. The quest for love and glory. The fundamental things apply as time goes by. And I still see that. I still see that in organizations. I still see that in individuals. I still see that in families. And I think it's really important to be reminded of that there is a continuity. The second thing to be reminded of, I think, is that it's ridiculous to hearken back to some idealized past as if things were better in the past. Things were terrible and worse in the past. In the broad sweep, things are so much better now that it's almost absurd to even talk about it. I just happened to come across a reference in some other context between the 16th century and the 19th century. I forget the number, but the number of women put to death for witchcraft was just staggering. It was just staggering. And it just, one could go on and on and on. It just, so what was cruel and unusual punishment in 1789 when the Constitution was adopted versus today? I mean, everywhere you look, I'm not talking about technology and material things. I'm talking about moral sense, psychological insight, the desire to engage and help and so forth. It's incredibly better.
Yeah.
And the third thing is what I call my probability outlook. If you're a pessimist and you stop trying, then 100% probability the bad thing is going to happen. If you're an optimist, maybe not in your emotions, but in your behavior,
then you try, you keep trying, and maybe the chance is only 20%, maybe it's 30%, but at least there's a probability of the good outcome.
Yep.
If you stop trying, it's 100% probability of the bad outcome.
Yeah.
And I just think I think we have to have confidence in the rare opportunities when we're talking to young people, younger people. And it's not really, I'm not talking about 20-year-olds, I'm talking about actually 40-year-olds who know something of the world. It's really important to rally those perspectives. I certainly totally agree with, as some of you have said, explicit gratitude, not just thinking about it, but really saying it.
Yep.
As my wife Barbara and I do every night at dinner. And we reel off a couple of things that in our lives that we're grateful for. And I agree with that. And I agree with Ron's point that it isn't all in the head. But yet, if you think about Gaudino and DeBoer, Gaudino was very much in the head and insisted on clarity, insisted on definition, insisted on engaging, shed his predispositions and sort of would approach things clinically almost. And yet I well remember his disagreement with Freud, that he said Freud tells you that we have suppressed emotions, and what you ought to do is give them their due, recognize them, acknowledge them, but then maintain your rationality and try to engage and clarify and get a better understanding. So all those things go together, but I think it's really important, even though we can say, well, we don't know this world any longer. The fact is we do know this world quite well. We have rare historical perspectives. We have a lot of experience. We have great reasoning ability, and a certain confidence and willingness to engage. I would say that even the recognition of the value of casual engagement, I think means that our elite education did not make us snobs, that there was something about Williams that maintained a appreciation of people and humanity and the capacity to learn. I remember whose mother at a weekend, a Parents' Day weekend, Gaudino had a long conversation with her. And this young student said he was totally amazed that his mother had this conversation with Gaudino. I mean, here was a mother that he didn't know. And that Gaudino engaged and brought out. So I think it's actually quite remarkable that we went to an elite college, but we have a confidence, but we're not elitist. And so I would just say, keep your confidence up and don't hesitate to give advice to younger people, even if you can't know how to host a Zoom meeting.
Hear, hear.
I have a friend who suggested that I meet with Mexican teachers who speak English, because my Spanish apesta stinks. But and just have conversations about what education is and can be, because Mexican education system is not of the strongest type. But I thought, so I'm going to try and arrange it to get 6 or 8 or 10 guys or women around just to talk about teaching and learning, and I can share 50 years of my love of it and see what happens, and I can also learn from them about from the younger teachers, what's going on in their heads about what teaching is to them. So I'm hoping to get this off the ground before long. I'll let you know if it happens.
I've got one thought in terms of, because you sometime will be with lots of times you can be with younger people and they're asked for your advice or something, one thing or another. And I did a talk one time that I had to write out, and one time to a group of younger people, and I got a title from another friend. I didn't even think of it, but I've always held with this and feel that it's something I want to mention it to all of you. You may have times that you can use it too with younger people when they ask you, they're trying to figure out what to do and so forth, or in college or whatever. The title of the speech was "Don't Make a Living, Make a Life." And that meant, essentially, it's not how much, and especially when I was at Williams on the board and stuff like that, you'd hear the faculty talking about students that would come in and be so upset that they got an A- in some class of theirs, and it was going to wreck their ability to be, God only knows what, an investment banker at Goldman Sachs or something like that. And it was so disappointing at this great school, liberal arts education at Williams, to hear that. And so I sort of I've always remembered that expression that don't make a living, make a life. And that really makes it broader than sometimes you'll hear kids that are or parents that are so, you got to be the best, or you got to do this, or you got to make a lot of money, or one thing or another. And it's the ability to balance, obviously, your interests and figure out what you're going to really be, where you'll be happy and fulfilled. And it's not, especially seeing a lot of the people that have maybe made the most money or something like that are just determined to, don't think of some people, but I just love using that, and it seems to hit home a little bit.
Last week, there was a poll online of the best and the worst colleges in America, the top 20 and the worst 20. And so I scrolled through it, and I'm trying to figure out what were their criteria. And then I realized the criteria they used was ROI.
Yeah.
How much you're going to make the first year you get out of school vis-a-vis what you paid for the 4 years. I thought, Jesus Christ, what kind of a stupid thing is that? And there was this discussion on Facebook about it. And I was curious about it because Williams was, top 10, but not as high as it. There were schools ranked above Williams that I don't know much about schools anymore, but I know for goddamn sure that there weren't better schools than Williams. And then it took me a while before I figured out it was based on how much money you make vis-a-vis what you paid in tuition. What kind of a stupid thing is that? God. And so when I was commenting on it, I was talking in terms of an educated man and, things of that sort, critical thinking, and no one that I was discussing this with online had a clue what I was talking about. Very depressing.
But speaking of grades again, do they give any C's at Williams anymore? I mean, everything's all A's. I mean, the whole New York Times article about it, there's a 4.0. Now you can get a 4.2 or 4.3, which is above A plus. Are there any C's and D's anymore? I doubt it. Otherwise, they wouldn't. The parents would be furious if the college give my kid a D. I'm pulling him out and sending him to Amherst or something. I don't know. Seems to me it's crazy, the grading system. If I were teaching now, I don't know quite what I'd do, except one year I did one thing. I gave all my 8th graders A for the year on the first day of school. And I said, you have an A for the year, that's it. It's all done. No matter what you do, the A will be on your report card, it'll be at the end. And we had a terrific year. Because it's about learning, not about grades. And I wish I did it more than once, but I did it once. And I've written about it, and I find it was a fascinating year and fascinating kids. Kids challenged me about working. Some didn't do homework. You get your A. And so they ended up working their ass off, actually. So strange.
You ever try to average the grades, Frank?
Oh, God. I hated it. Yeah, I don't know. I hated averaging grades as a teacher. What a waste of time. So
everybody feels just the same with a C?
I don't think you give a C anymore. I really don't think they do. Maybe they do. I don't know. Should check it out.
Well, we've gone well over an hour, and we can go to 2 hours. There's no reason to shorten this unless people think that we've kind of talked ourselves out. I don't. There are several we haven't heard from, and there's plenty left to say. I know, but well, two things. First, one is the idea of wrapping this up about now. The second is this one was about 3 months between centers, between the last one and this one. Does that sound about right? Would you like them more often? Would you like them to be general like this, or have us send out a question, a challenge, or a subject to think about? How about some feedback?
I think two to 3 months is great, like you've been doing, and I prefer the general. I think this has been a great chat. Although we missed our star Hank Humphrey, right?
Yeah, we miss Hank and we miss Matt. I don't know where. Anyway, Hank, I believe had registered, but maybe he had appointments. Okay.
Good stuff.
Thank you very much.
Hearing no direction and not having run out of time, but I'll suggest we sign off and look forward to the next time.
Thank you.
I would say.
Thank you.
We get together.
Good Thanksgiving and holiday to everybody.
Good job.
Dick, let me just say before we leave that the college has made a decision to put less emphasis on the printed notes, and they're going to do it fewer times during the year. The next notes will not come out until January. And that puts more emphasis on doing the kind of thing that we're doing here. And I think it's, we'll see how the fewer notes, fewer times to have notes works. They're putting less emphasis on the printed page and more on the electronic transmission of notes. But I would encourage us to keep this 2 to 3 months for the Zoom sessions alive and flourishing, and also that you try to bring in some other people it'd be wonderful if we had to split into 2 groups of 25.
That would be amazing.
So that's up to you guys to bring in some more people.
Two things I'd like to say. First is to thank Ron, because as I hope you all know, whereas the college has put a 2,500 word limit or something, I forget what they gave you, Ron. But Ron, we've also published by email all the notes, and they went like twice as long as the college would permit. The second thing is about getting more participation. You know, you heard Paul say we're something like 130 of us extant, and we're 23. I think we had 25 registrations, and I guess you all know that I promoted it what I thought was pretty hard. I sent out I think 3 notices on this, including a reminder just late last week. And I've come to the conclusion that we're bumping up against some kind of a ceiling. Some people don't care. I'm sure there's a group of them. There's some people that don't feel they can do it, either physically or in terms of getting on a computer. I don't know all the reasons, but I'll tell you, we've not been able to break a 30 barrier. And, you know, that's...
Don't you think that some people are afraid they can't contribute and therefore don't want to?
Well, yes, we don't require contribution, and
no money, not money.
No, I didn't mean money. I know you didn't mean it. We don't require that you contribute orally or visually to the process, but you'd think they'd come and be spectators, but whatever.
What if you tried this? What if you listed the names of people who are still around in our class and sent it all, to this group, or the people that have been regulars on this group or so forth, and just said, if you think you're comfortable, could you call somebody you would love? I mean, Mets, you and I know, you know, we know a lot of people that are around in New Jersey and also and elsewhere that somehow they're still around, and maybe a personal phone call, at least each of us could try to look down that list and call one or two people and say, this is the date for the next thing. We'd love to catch up. I think you'll enjoy it. Give it a try. Would that be difficult?
I think that's a good idea, because I think one of the things we've all learned belonging to an organization or a group, get other people just writing about it. It's a personal call.
Yeah.
Say, hey, would you join us? Would you do this? Would you do that? Get them involved.
There may be others who missed the last link like I did because my computer spam took it out. I finally figured that out.
Right. Right. Exactly.
That's a good point. I'll do that, Bob. That's a good suggestion. I'll get it done. You'll all get here on the screen.
Yeah.
Our participation group will get the names of those who aren't participating.
All right, and if you could add their phone numbers.
numbers.
Yeah, phone numbers, right?
Or emails. Yeah.
That would be very helpful. I mean, you know, the development department must have all this stuff, so I don't think there's any
But if
issue
you
on privacy or anything else. But, you know, we know a few people, or I do certainly, who I'd love to see on, and you might send it all out to, you know, the other people that have been on a few of the past sessions and just for some reason not on today or something. Send the whole list out and say, see if you can get one more of your buddies to join it. We'd love to see them, love to say hello and that kind of stuff. And each of us make a call or two and see if we can at least get one extra person next time.
Well, the other side of it is at the end of notes that you send out to all of us, the whole class of emails, is mention this group and the fact that we get together every couple of months, and here are the people that have been involved. And somebody might say, oh, gee, I'd like to see so-and-so again, or touch base with them again.
Yeah, I did do that this last time. I threw all of your names out, those of you who were on the last one. And I also sent out, I think, one of my reminders, all the people who had already registered for this one. But
I think a phone call will be the way.
Yeah, that'll be the key.
People. I mean, you think about a person and just, it would be kind of fun to call some people too. I mean, Peter Boyer, I was, you know, a roommate of his. Bobby Pyle. I've never seen any of those. Or maybe Bobby was on, but I don't remember, you know, just people that we all knew personally.
That was one of the great
might be
things.
nice to give them a call.
That was one of the great things about the telethon years ago, as part of the fund, the alumni fund drive, getting together in New York or Chicago somewhere and sitting down with the classmates and calling other classmates and saying, hey, will you send in a few bucks to the alumni? Touch
Let's
base
give
with
it a
somebody
try.
every other year or so.
Yeah.
It's nice seeing Hartley and Bagnolo side by side on my computer, remembering our days on Stetson Court. We should get more of us.
Well, I was happy to come in today because I saw Jerry Bernstein's name in the letters Dick had sent out. And Jerry and I were roommates back in Stage C 65 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow, that's good. No, it's nice.
Next time we're together, Ed, I want to talk about your hair. How come your hair isn't white? That's what I want.
Well, I have a good, beauty polish.
A good gene pool.
Right.
I can report to you that there are little pods around the class of people who have gotten together because of the Zoom and because of the notes. I hear 2 or 3 times a year from Dick Eggers, who has made it a point to get on the telephone with 2 or 3 other people and and he reports to me about it, and I thought he might appear here today, but that's happening, I would say, 3 or 4 times each time the notes go out. I get a request for someone's phone number or someone's email from someone I hadn't heard from for a while. So there are people who are reaching out, maybe to former roommates or maybe to someone they just remembered. So this is not the only mechanism, but we could strengthen this one as well.
I wonder how much of a spam problem we have, because I could try to send out from my personal address, Gmail address, maybe class list or however it's worded as the from. Maybe that gets spammed out an awful lot. I haven't, it doesn't from me, but.
If you send it as an attachment, it wouldn't get spammed. If it got through your email and you had the attachment, then all the rest of the stuff could be opened up without any worrying about spam. I don't know if that would work or not.
It was the Williams EDU that my computer blocked. John Gilman called me after the last meeting and asked why I wasn't on, and that's when I began to investigate. And that's how I finally found out what I needed to do. But it was a phone call from him that prompted me, hey, I didn't know I missed that. Then I realized I hadn't got the link, and then I began checking, and finally I found out why.
Well, Dick, the college might be able to help you on that, whether this has been a problem with emails.
Yeah.
Well, I finally just said anything with Williams EDU is not junk. And now it's coming.
Yeah.
Dick, you might also try, I'm not sure how you'd phrase it, but to get across that, you know, whether you say something, whether people say anything or not, clearly they enjoy seeing and hearing their other classmates.
Good point.
I mean, because as you said, there's no requirement here that you contribute, but on the other hand, people make assumptions about what's expected, and maybe if there's a way to say that, it would be a good thing for some people, a little nudge.
I'll do that. It's good.
Thank you, Dick.
Thank you all for providing balance for me.
Dick, before you wrap up, I have one quick one.
Yes, Steve.
There's a jazz club in Akron, and the guy that owns it, the moderator of each of the performances, and he starts off describing his personal philosophy as having an attitude of gratitude. And I think attitude of gratitude is a wonderful phrase.
And I like Rich Herzog with the idea of expressing it at dinner. I think that's something I'm going to reinstate in our life. Thank you for that.
Mm.
It's a pattern in our home too. Okay, everybody.
Thank you.
Happy Halloween.
Thanks, Zach.
Very good.
Take care.
Y'all got your costumes picked out?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And
Aren't we wearing
Bob,
them?
and Bob Stegman, kiss the ground in Williamstown, please. For us, for all of us, because you know how much we all love it. Me, probably longer because I was a kid there, but please do that. I would feel really good.
Right on.
Best wishes to all.
I'll wipe my mouth and send you the napkin.
What's that?
I'll wipe my mouth and send you the napkin.
Oh, good stuff.
Okay.
Take care.
Yeah.
Best wishes.